Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. I want to talk about measurement versus feeling when it comes to improving ourselves, when it comes to tracking our habits, when it comes to living a good life, when it comes to minimalism. And this is going to be another knit with me video where I knit my sweater, and at the moment I'm knitting this part here, and that does take a while. And right now I have to change my thread because we are out of both of my threads, so I have to take 2 new ones, and then let's get started with today's topic. By the way, I'm gonna link you all the other videos in this playlist up here so you can check out the whole playlist and watch me knit my sweater. So I think measuring versus feeling is something I have thought a lot about, and I've tried all the different things, and I think there are also a lot of people talking about both of these things. Now I know that a lot of people recommend tracking your habits with writing down for each day, did you do yoga, did you drink enough water, did you work out, did you do all the things that you wanted to do to track your life. But on the other hand, tracking always comes with that feeling of disappointment if you don't reach your goal, if you don't do it, and we all know, I think, that sometimes we just need a day off. Sometimes we just cannot do all of our habits, even if they're healthy and good for our life, each and every day. Sometimes we need a break, sometimes we need to not do our 10k steps and things like that. And so I always wonder if tracking in general is a good thing to do, or if we maybe shouldn't do it at all. And the same also goes for counting your possessions and things like that when it comes to minimalism, because most of the time the number, or if we achieved our goals and habits every single day, is not a thing that will make us happy. But the thing that actually makes us happy is the feeling. Like if we feel strong because we work out a lot of times, if we feel like we're excited to drink all of that water because it's good for our body, we are excited to get in the 10k steps because it means we can go outside and enjoy nature and all of these things. And even if you're doing these things to reach a goal, like a point in weight, in whatever you are trying to reach, I still think it's about the feeling in the end. But I know that also these measurement tools can help a lot to achieve not only a goal but also a lifestyle, like to learn to implement these things in our daily routines, to make sure that we actually do these things on a regular basis. Because if we just want to do them and if we think they're healthy but we end up only doing them a few times a month, we can also most of the times not experience the benefits of these habits that we are trying to implement in our lives. Now I want to talk about my personal experience with different kinds of tracking and different things I do track and don't track anymore and started tracking, just to give you a bit more insight into what I mean and how that works for me and what I'm doing at the moment. I think about 6 months ago, I really thought about tracking my screen time again, because I felt like I'm spending too much time on my phone. It's not healthy, I know that. I want to create more, consume less, I want to be more productive, or I want to just spend my time in different ways and not in front of the screen. And I very much still believe that that is a good thing to do, that makes sense. And back then I installed 2 apps that would track my screen time, would tell me how much time I spend in each app, would remind me if I've spent a certain amount of time on Instagram, for example, to tell me, oh, please don't use Instagram again because you have reached your daily dose of Instagram, and things like that. And I thought they were helpful at first because I could realize how much time I spend in front of screens, especially on my phone. But with time, I realized that they are just stressing me out. these apps would remind me every single day how much time I've spent on my phone. They would tell me like, oh, good, you've reduced your screen time 3 days in a row. But then a day or a few days later, it's, oh my God, you've increased your screen time 3 days in a row. And these reminders of like you've spent so many hours on your phone each day, and it was always numbers, I have to say that were not making me happy. But the other thing is, and that's something I think that is pretty important when we talk about screen time, I do work with my phone. For example, when a YouTube video goes live, I reply to your comments. And I don't reply to all of them anymore just because I cannot. Like, it would take up so much time. But I try to reply to many comments, or like at least in the beginning, whenever a video goes live, I try to reply to as many comments as possible. On days where a video goes live, I automatically spend like 2 more hours on my phone because I'm replying to comments. And replying to comments is not a bad thing, but of course this app would tell me each time that I've spent so much time in the YouTube Studio app, that I've spent so much time on my phone, and that is not good. And for example, my son also uses my phone for a learning app they can use in their school, and whenever he does that, which is several times a week, he maybe spends 40 minutes on my phone doing these things. But of course that also counts into my screen time, and then every time he does that, it's almost another hour added to my screen time. Instagram also is not just private for me. YouTube is not just private for me, because sometimes I watch videos for research on my phone, or from like other creators in that niche because it's interesting. Okay, that's like half private, half working, but it just felt like these apps were not helping me, but they were making everything harder because they were making me feel bad, and they couldn't differentiate between what was necessary and what not. Of course, it could be that I'm taking the wrong apps, and that maybe if I take the right app, I could use it the way that would be beneficial for me. But for now, I decided to uninstall these apps because I don't feel like they're beneficial, because they're only making me feel bad. And even if I spend too much time on my phone, we cannot do so much right now. And sometimes, yes, I may be spending too much time on my phone. Sometimes, yes, I'm just scrolling through Instagram. And sometimes it would be more productive or better for me if I did something else. But if I'm reminded of it like every single day that it's too much, it's also, I just don't feel like it's helpful right now. And then the next app that I installed like half a year ago was my step tracking app, where it would like track my steps, so I could see if I did 10,000 steps a day. Now I also set my goal to 10,000 steps a day. You can set it to whatever you want with the app I use. And that app did not make me feel bad every single day. And I think I found out why. So in December, I think I had an average of 8,000 steps a day. January and February, I actually had over 10,000 steps as an average. But I never like managed to do 10,000 steps every single day for more than like 10 days in a row. And in March, I think I had only 8,000. And for April, it looks like it's gonna be only 8,000, because yeah, you're going to see this in May, but it's still April when I'm filming this. Like, of course, it makes me feel a bit bad, or it doesn't feel good when I see that I actually want to do 10,000 steps a day, because I think it's healthy, because I know I feel good every time I make it outside into nature. It's still not as bad as the screen time, because sometimes I don't do many steps a day. Sometimes I have just 3,000, but that's mostly on days where I work a lot and I feel good about achieving a lot in working. And it's on other days where it's maybe weekend and I just sit on the couch and read a book, and I do also feel good about sometimes allowing myself to just sit on the couch all day long and read a book and do something with my family and not really leaving the house. And because I'm okay, or because I feel good about both of these things, like allowing myself to rest and to not stress about these steps. But also I know that there are many days where I actually do achieve these 10,000 steps or even more. This app does not have the power to make me feel bad to that extent. Also because I know I'm spending a lot of time watching screens, but I don't have the same feeling for my steps. Like I really cannot tell you how many steps I did if I don't have that app that tells me. And I just think for steps, it's also very interesting. Like I'm not trying to lose weight. I'm not trying to like change anything about my body or something like that. But I just think it's healthy, and it's interesting to see how many steps I take every day. So this app is just really interesting because I can see it and if I uninstall it, I don't have this data that I actually find interesting. And with the screen time, I have to say I don't really find that interesting what it tells me, because it just tells me that I spend several hours a day on my phone, and that is not making me feel good. But I also know that it's not the worst thing ever, because I use my phone to work. And so I decided to keep the step tracking app, but to declutter the screen time app. And that of course goes for everything else as well. These were just the two recent examples. But something that I did in 2018, before we went to Sweden, I had a lot to do for university, a lot of to-dos each day, and I used like a physical planner. It was more like a bullet journal to just write down the things, a to-do list each day, the things that I needed to do to get it done. And that helped a lot. So there, I think measuring or seeing what you need to do and doing it helps a lot. But I also realized that every time I don't have that much to do, I end up ditching the lists and not making to-do lists, because I rather just have it on my mind what I need to do if it's not overwhelming. But if it's a lot, it really helps. And another thing that I experienced with having that list back in 2018, I had 3 things I put on my list every single day. And that was practicing Swedish, doing handstands, and a third thing that I actually cannot remember. Yeah, I don't know. I just know it was 3 things. And these 3 things did not take that long, but I saw such a good improvement in my handstand, in my Swedish, and in whatever that third thing was, because I just don't remember. Oh, I think it was feeding our sourdough. Yeah, that sourdough survived, so I think that was a good thing to have that on that list too. And it also was that helpful, I think, because these were things that I could do in just a few minutes. So I committed to practicing Swedish for like 5 minutes. It's like 1 Duolingo lesson per day. And I also committed to practicing handstands. I had a rule of practicing handstands about 5 minutes as well, or until I did like 3 good handstands that I felt were good. Like I felt that it worked well, that I did not just fall over the next second. And yeah, this really, really helped me to reach a goal or to get better at these things. And so I think it always depends on the time you're in. It always depends on what you need from a tool like this. It can be very, very helpful to track things, but it can also be healthier and more helpful to not track things. I think it's also a good idea to always differentiate between goals or things you track because you do them for yourself, because it's an intrinsic motivation, because you know you feel good if you're doing them, you really want to achieve that thing you're trying to do, you really want to change something, or if it's a goal or something you need to do because somebody else tells you, because something outside of you tells you that you need to do that, and it's not really something that you want to do. For all the things that you don't really want to do, it maybe doesn't work as well if you don't have something to track it, because I think that reminder that you need to do it helps with doing these things you don't feel excited about. But especially if you try to develop habits, if you try to do something just for yourself, I think a lot of times it's maybe wiser to go with the feeling route. to allow yourself to do it when you feel like it and to not do it when you don't feel like it. Yes, if you want to grow in a certain area, sometimes you have to put in a lot of work. Sometimes you have to do things that don't feel super comfortable at the moment to reach something you want to achieve in the long run. That is absolutely true. But I also think we should stop being so excited about self-improvement if it's only always making us feel like we're not enough. I want to tell you that you are enough just the way you are. But I, of course, absolutely also understand if you want to change something. It just doesn't mean that you have to change it the fastest way possible. It doesn't mean that you need to track it to achieve it in a short period of time or in a certain way. I think most of these changes that you do for yourself, to improve yourself, to feel better about yourself, should also make you feel good in the moment. Like, of course, I know things like, for example, weight loss oftentimes take a lot of exercising, and that burns, like that doesn't feel good at the moment, but it can. And a lot of people also like exercising, and so I absolutely understand if that's not always super easy, because there are things that you want to do for yourself that don't feel good at the moment. But I think we shouldn't always just force ourselves. We should find a way to also improve ourselves in a way that makes us feel good. And here I want to just quote that method: to do more of what works, do more of what feels good, do more of what's good for you, and do less of the things that harm you, do less of the things that are not good for you, do less of the things that you don't want to have in your life in the future. Because sometimes it's not possible to change it from one day to the next, but it's possible to make a slow change and to move into a direction you want to go into. And the most important thing with changes like this is, I think, that they are sustainable. And now sustainable is not meant in a way where it's not harming our planet, which I think is still good if it's sustainable in that way too. But now I mean sustainable in a way that you can sustain it for a long time. I think when we make changes to our lives to feel better about ourselves, about our bodies, about our minds, then we should do it in a way where we know it will be something that can be with us for a long, long time, that can be very sustainable in that way, that can, make our lives better in the long run, and not just a short-term thing, a crash diet, something that makes life a little bit better for a short period of time, but something that has a sustainable impact and that has a long-lasting benefit. Now, I would be really interested in hearing from you what the methods are that you use to change things, to improve yourself, to get things for work done, just whenever you need to maybe do things that are not always comfortable, or whenever, because things that are super comfortable to do, I think we do them without having a list, without something telling us that we should do them. It's always the things that are a bit harder to change, that require a list or concentration or a certain amount of determination. And so I would be really interested in hearing about your methods and your ways to make your life better or easier or more sustainable, or whatever your goals are. So leave me those things down below in the comments if you want to, and I'm looking forward to reading them. So as a conclusion, I want to say that I think we often do these things and want to change things about ourselves because we want to feel better. And I think if we really think about that it's the feeling we're after, we want to feel better, then it makes sense to not just go by a number or by an external goal, because the number itself does not make us feel better, and ticking off to-dos does make us feel better for a short time, but in the end we want to make the change in the feeling. So why not start with learning more about your feeling and learning more about what makes you happy going forward doing that change, because you actually want to have a change in your feeling, and the number in the end is not what is going to make that change. So this is where we're at with the sweater, and now I realize that I don't even need to use the magic loop technique anymore, because it's enough stitches that I can just go round and round and round, and don't have to like take the needle and yeah, make that magic loop. And you can see it's kind of turning into a sweater. No, I don't think you can really see it, but let me show you. Whoop. Like this. This is gonna be here, and here are like this is gonna be the beginning of like the sleeve, the body part, and here is the other sleeve. It's of course gonna be here, and so that is where we are. I hope you like this video. If you want to see more videos, I link you a video here and a playlist here that you can check out if you want to and if you have time. And I also hope to see you next time. Bye!